yo, 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 yo. Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome to the Tea Factory podcast. How y'all doing today? Thank you for stopping by and watching this review, watching this video. Today we are going to review the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 10. So we're on episode 10. Thank you for stopping by. Please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't hurt to subscribe, like, comment on this episode. And you can go back also watch all the other videos that I have. I do have from episode 1 to now episode 10. Watch all the videos. Please subscribe, comment, like, and all that fun stuff. Okay, so let's get into this. So before I get started, we're just going to go over housekeeping. Section 107 of the Copyright Act, it says there is allowance for fair use of copyrighted material for such purposes as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. Again, subscribe, comment, and like, and thank you for watching this video. So let's get off into this. So episode 10 opens up with Kelly and her daughters in their home. Kelly's daughters, they're cute, all four of them. But Chloe, she's the oldest. I love Chloe and her hair, and she seems like she's a good girl. She was just telling her about her grades. She gets mostly A's and B's, which is good, But she said that she knows she's going to have to hear her dad's mouth because apparently he must want her to get all A's, But then, what parent doesn't? I don't blame him. We all want our kids to be straight A's. We may put a lot of stress on them to do that, but we want them to have a better life than we did, okay? And if they had a good life with us, we want them to even have a better life. So I can understand what the dad's coming from. So then, then Kelly, the other, has the kids come downstairs because she's cooking dinner. So they get ready to eat. And then one of the little girls says that she wants to be a chef. And then the other little girl, I think she said her name was Chance, if I'm not mistaken, says that, mom doesn't know how to cook that well, But, I mean, I thought that was funny, it'd be your own kids. Kids are always being shady and throwing shade. And then, so Kelly's also saying that, asking the girls if they're ready to move out because they live in a townhouse. And, and they're all crammed in there, and they're ready to move to a bigger space and a bigger place. And I can definitely understand that. And then also Kelly in her confessional, she says that, her and Chloe, because Chloe has a different dad than the other girls. And her and Chloe's dad are more like brother and sister because they have a really good relationship, unlike the relationship she has with her husband. And I feel like a lot of people can probably relate to that part. When she says at this point, Chloe's dad is like her brother. Some people, they get along with their baby daddies like brother and sister. It does happen. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. So then, let's see. So the next scene we have Shamea. Okay. So Shamea meets up with Ralph to talk about a podcast situation or whatever. So, they show Shamea walking, and then Ralph is already there. She walks in, they're sitting down. They get the pleasantries out. Hey, how you doing? How's the kids? How's your kids? And they get all that out the way. And apparently, Shamea says that she was on a podcast with Ralph, Todd, and Ross. Ross is Sonya's husband from previous seasons. which I'm glad she's not on the show anymore. I did not like Sonya. Sonya was boring. I didn't care for her. So I'm so glad she is not here this season. So apparently Shamea was on that podcast with them. So they meet up to have lunch, dinner, whatever it was, to discuss podcasts. So then Shamea says to Raph, she's like, okay, so let's just address the elephant in the room. And they start talking about Drew. So I guess Drew is the elephant in the room. So then as they're talking, Porsha appears out of nowhere. Porsha appears out of the clear blue sky. Okay, it was almost like, the G.I. Joes, SEAL 6. They just dropped her. Like, they just came with the helicopter and they just dropped her in the middle of that scene. Like, it was crazy. I mean, it was like no warning, no nothing. Like, Shamea didn't even tell Raph, hey, Raph, as they're talking about the podcast or whatever that they're pretending to be talking about, Shamea doesn't even warn us, the viewers, like nobody. By the way, Raph, I invited Porsha. So Portia's going to meet us. She's going to join us. And, Porsha should be coming here shortly. None of that. They didn't warn Raph. They didn't warn us. So out of the clear blue sky, Porsha shows up. And I'm not going to lie, like, when Porsha showed up, like, that kind of, like, scared me. It took me I'm like, damn, where'd she come from? She just popped up out of nowhere. Popped up out of, what did that song go by Lotto? Popped up out of the plastic feeling brand new or whatever. That's what, I know I got it all messed up, but good Lord. I didn't care for that, okay? So anyway, so she sits down. And then they go to disclaimer scene, like at the confessional. And they do a rewind, and they do a pause. So Porsha did her little disclaimer on her confessional. Raph did his little disclaimer on his confessional. And then they show Shamea doing a disclaimer with her big old boobs. And for some reason, her boobs look like 1,000% bigger than they normally are. But anyway, so Porsha was like, oh, I forgot what she said. Pretty much was like, didn't know that he was going to be there. Well, Shamea was saying that, I don't know what they were saying. I'm sorry, guys. I don't remember what the hell they were saying in their confessional, but they were just like, basically all three of them in their confessional was trying to say like it wasn't a setup. Like they didn't set this up to meet. It's not what they think it is or what we think it is. It's not what it looks like. It's not what it could be, should be, would be. It's some BS, child. Some BS, okay? But anyway, so then Porsha asked them what they were talking about. And she said that they were, Shamea said that they were talking about the podcast and they start ordering foods and drinks. Porsha orders Henny on the rocks, of course. And then Raph has some kind of like cool looking drink. I don't know what it was, but it looked cool. And so she's drinking. She's gonna be drinking Hennessy. So she's gonna be acting a fool and saying and doing some stupid shit. I don't know why, but Henny is her go-to drink. So then as they're talking, Porsha says that Dennis sent her a text message saying that he would not sleep with Drew and that Drew was trying to sleep with him, or making it seem like Drew was trying to ask Dennis for some D. And then Porsha was saying, but Dennis was saying, run me my money and not that ass. So I feel like Portia's full of shit. I felt like Porsha was faking. So she pulls out her phone and she's like trying to pretend that she's reading a text message that Dennis sent her about Drew trying to screw him. And I feel like Porsha was lying, fabricating, or exaggerating the text message. And I didn't care for that. And, and I'm not a Drew fan at all. I'm Team Porsha. But Porsha, honey, you just doing too much, girl. You doing too much. I didn't care for that. This scene was a hard scene to watch because all they did was talk about Drew. And then Shamea asked Drew, Shamea asked Ralph why he divorcing Drew or well, okay, first they asked him who filed first, and then he's like, he filed first. And I don't think that that's true though, because they live in Gwinnett County here in the Atlanta area, and I remember when that happened, they were saying that Drew filed first and then Ralph. Like they were running, to the courthouse to beat each other to see who was gonna, to file first. So I think they said Drew's the one who filed first. I don't know. I might have to go down to the Gwinnett County courthouse and to see if it's public record, to see if I can see it and report back to y'all. But anyway, so then they asked him, why are you trying to divorce Drew? Why are you divorcing? So he says that Drew cheated on him and was having an affair with Ty. And for those of you who don't know who Ty is, Ty was Mimi's girlfriend. Okay, well, first of all, Ty's a girl. She's a girl. She's a woman. And she was Mimi's girlfriend from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. So Mimi is not on there this season. But, when it first started, she was one of the big stars on that show. She was one of the people that made the show. Her and Stevie, what they had going on back then, pretty much made that show. That show was built on Mimi's back, on her pain. So that's who Ty is. So basically, he said that Ty was having an affair with him with a woman, and that's why he filed. And then they start talking about what Drew said. Like Porsha starts comparing what Drew said to Shamea. She tells him that Drew had said something about she would be making enough money to send Pilar to college. And he's like, what? She said that? That's messed up. And then and he's like, yeah, because that's what Shamea said, and he's like, man, that's messed up. So then Shamea tells Porsha that Angela said that she should be holding Porsha accountable. And then Porsha's like, no, she's trying to say you should be holding yourself accountable. Because what she was trying to say is you should hold yourself accountable to hold me accountable. I don't know, but because I felt like Porsha was trying to do some reverse psychology on Shamea. I don't know. But Shamea was trying to tell her that Angela said, Shamea being a married woman, when Porsha said that she wanted to fuck Charles, which was wrong, which was out of pocket, even if she was playing, Angela was saying that Shamea should have held Porsha accountable. And then Porsha was like, no, what she was really trying to say, you should hold yourself accountable. I don't know, child. It felt like it was some ninja mind trick. That's what it felt like to me. So then they're arguing, going back and forth, Shamea and Porsha, about that statement. So then Porsha tells Ralph, honey, we forgot about you. We forgot that you were still here. And which is true, because they started arguing and talking about what Angel had said among themselves. They forgot that Ralph was there. So that was the end of that scene, though. So basically, to sum it up, all they did was get together, have lunch or dinner, and they talked about Drew. That's all they did. It was a Drew bash and fest. It was hard to watch. I didn't care for it. And I actually like Shamea and Porsha. Those are my girls, but not in that scene, honey. They were too messy, hot ass mess. And Ralph too, honey. Ralph, you a messy little queen, honey. That was messy. But hey, next scene, we have Angela at one of her rental properties meeting up with Kelly. And she says, in her confessional later, that she has 5 investment properties. And she's about like $2 million in debt because of her rental properties. And so she was showing Kelly this rental property. Perhaps she might be interested in purchasing it, because Kelly is looking for a house, a bigger space, and some room for her and her daughters, because they are crammed in that townhouse. So Kelly meets Angela, and then they show the pool. The pool was nasty. The pool was nasty. You know, it was dirty. It was green, mold and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure she's gonna clean it up and fix it up and spend some money. But in that scene, it was nasty. And I feel like, to be honest with you, you know, on the other scenes, you know how, or in interviews, Angela has came out and said that the Real Housewives have tried to get her on the show numerous of times, but she never joined. But now she joined. You know what I was thinking about, you guys? That scene right there, I wonder if she joined now because she said that she said she's $2 million in debt. So I wonder if she joined because she needs the money. And I mean, if somebody's $2 million in debt because of their rental properties and they're trying to flip them and sell them, and all these years they've asked her to be on the show, and then all of a sudden now she says, yes, that could be the reason. So she did it for the money, honey, which I'm not mad at her. I mean, they're all doing it for the money. It must be the money. Dun, 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 dun. Must be the money. Okay, Dion. Shout out to Dion Primetime. Because it must be the money. So, so then Angela and what is her name? Kelly. So she, you know, she's showing her around the house and they're talking. Then Angela shares with Kelly that, well, first of all, Angela is telling Kelly, you know, about her marriage situation, about Wendy Williams' story, how she had met Wendy Williams and she had made a comment about something about baby daddy, and she wasn't talking about Charles. I think she was talking about, you know, her first daughter's father or something. She said Wendy Williams misconstrued that story and made it appear as though Charles Oakley had a baby on her, had cheated on her and had a baby on her. She said that's not what it is. And Angela said that, you know, she's had some growing pains in her relationship, and she doesn't mind being open and sharing and being transparent. You know, she says that love is not a fairy tale, and I agree with her 100%. Love is not a fairy tale. Marriage is not a fairy tale, but they be trying to sell people this Disney fairy tale story that everything is supposed to be peaches and cream, but marriage can be challenging. I've never been married, but I mean, I can imagine. So then she shares with Kelly that Shamea was talking about Porsha. Shamea was feeling that Porsha doesn't want her to be on the show, and that Porsha didn't come to her wedding in Kenya, Africa to be exact, for the people in the back, not Kenya Moore hair care. She's talking about her wedding that she had in Kenya, Africa. And that's because her husband is African. He's Kenyan. He's from Kenya. So, so Shamea was sharing, but they didn't show that though. I mean, yeah, they just did like a little flashback of Shamea, Drew, and Angela somewhere. I don't know. It looked like somebody's cell phone information, but it wasn't on the show. So basically, Shamea feels that Porsha is not a good friend to her. You know, she wasn't there for her wedding. She doesn't want her on the show. And I feel like Angela was being vindictive when she was telling this story to Kelly because of what Porsha had said about Charles Oakley, how, you know, she wanted to screw him. So I feel like Angela was sharing that information with Kelly to be messy, not because she was being loving and caring and you know, it was being messy, okay? So next scene is Britt at her house with her husband, and you know, they're talking about the same thing that they talk about, child. Every scene with Britt and Kelly is always about Kenya, her sisters, or her mom and her dad. That's it. Like every single scene, if you guys have noticed that, every single scene from episode 1, when it comes to Britt, it always has to do with either Kenya. If it's not Kenya, then it's the problem, the issues, the beef that she has with her sisters, and then her mom coming to live with her, and then the passing her father. Like, girl, I need you to get a new story. So, you know, they're talking about her mother coming to live with them because she's trying to have a baby. Same story again. And it's just like, good Lord. And then, she's saying her and her husband like to walk around the house naked. So it's going to be awkward when the mom moves in because they're not going to be able to walk around the house naked anymore. Oh, girl, whatever. Get a life. And then she's talking about Angela, how her and Angela, had that little beef from the brunch scene. Britt says that she doesn't fuck with Angela, and if she sees Angela, she'll be cordial towards her. And then Mike tells Britt that he reached out to her sister, the sister that she had lunch with. I forgot her name. Sherry? Is Sherry or Cher? So he told her that he's going to meet up with her so he can talk to her, so they can make up, so they can bury the hatchet. And that was big of him. Shout out to Mike for trying to be a big person and meeting up with her sister to talk to her. But Britt, I'm tired of her always. Okay, the beginning, it used to always be about Kenya. So then now, because she had that little incident with Angela, now it's about Angela. I need Britt to get a storyline. I'm tired of hearing about her little issues with Angela. And I'm tired of hearing about her sisters. And I'm tired of her talking about her mom coming to live with her and she wants to walk around, and she's not going to be able to walk around the house naked. I need something else from her. That's my opinion. Okay? So next scene is Porsha meeting up with Angela at her another rental property. So, she already told us she has 5 rental properties. So Angela, she had a scene with her and Kelly in one house. Now is her and Porsha at another house. Okay, Angela, I'm not mad at you. You're putting your properties on the show. Hopefully they can sell. Hopefully you can sell them and make some money, honey. Okay, so Angela says that she had Porsha meet her at the rental house because she did not want to invite her to her house. Her house where she lives with her husband. She said, no woman that says that she wants to fuck my husband is going to come to my house or is going to be allowed to come to my house. Under no circumstance would a woman that says that she would want to sleep with my husband be coming to my house. And I don't blame her. So she invited her to the rental property. They're playing tennis. And, well, the daughter was there. So Porsha meets the daughter, Angela's oldest daughter, and then Angela and Porsha start playing tennis, and then Angela's telling Porsha about her daughter being married, and she didn't know that her daughter had married, and then she says something about her partner's a nice girl. When she said that, I was like, see, I knew it. I knew that her daughter was gay. Part of the gay community, which is nothing's wrong with that. Shout out to them. There's nothing wrong with that. I have several friends that are in that community. Actually, I know a lot of people in that community. So, but I had a feeling though, that scene that when she sat down with her daughter and she was expressing to her daughter that she was mad that she didn't tell her that she was married, and she went behind her back and got married and didn't tell her. I knew it. I said either Angela did not like the boy or it was someone in the same. So I knew it. So then as they're talking, Porsha invites Angela to the event that she's going to be having. It's going to be Pampered by Porsha. Pampered by Porsha, which is her sheets brand. So Porsha tells her about the dinner and invites Angela, and Angela's like, oh, okay, thank you for inviting me. And then Porsha tells her that she met up with Raph and Shamea. And so Porsha tells her that Drew tried to sleep with Dennis. She tries to tell her about that text message, and then Angela's like, don't tell me that. I don't believe that Drew was trying to sleep with Dennis. I'm with Angela on this one. I don't believe that Drew was trying to sleep with Dennis either. I feel like Porsha's just being messy. I didn't like that scene. And Porsha ain't got nothing else to do. Okay? Nothing else to do. but to spread lies. And I'm disappointed in Porsha, but I guess she has to keep her job, guys. So, and Angela's like, no, I don't believe that. And she was like, she said, I know some people do some strange things for a little bit of change. Okay, now, okay, you guys, Angela is funny. Angela can read. Angela throws shades. She's good because she said do some strange things for a little bit of change, and then she said booty for beats. Yo, somebody needs to coin that. Man, that's a classic, booty for beats. So basically, she's trying to say that Drew's throwing some booty for some beats for Dennis. But she said she refuses to believe what Porsha's telling her. And then Angela said that Drew didn't talk about Pilar and that that's not how she said it. And she said, well, that's not how Shamea said it. And then, she told her that, how Drew said she would pay for PJ's college. She's like, it's not how Shamea said it. It's not as bad as Shamea tried to make it seem. Angela shares with Porsha that Shamea had a conversation with her, and she said that Shamea feels that, again, pretty much what she told Kelly, that it's a lopsided friendship. Porsha wasn't there for her for the marriage, and Porsha's not happy for her. So Angela shares with Porsha the same things that she shared with Kelly. Everything that Shamea told her, she ran back and told Porsha. So then when Angela told Porsha that Shamea feels their friendship is like lopsided or one-sided friendship, Shamea is a good friend to Porsha, but Porsha is not a good friend to Shamea, and that she's basically her lapdog. That upset Porsha. Porsha was upset. She started crying, and she just wanted to leave, and she started fanning herself with that fan because, they were outside playing tennis, and then they had stopped playing tennis. They were sitting on the chair talking and, gossiping and, all this crap that they were saying. So then they leave, and then Angela's like, oh, my God, she really is hurt, I don't know. Again, I feel like Angela was being messy when she told Porsha that. I guess it's a show of mess. Like, I need to quit saying that because they're all messy. So it's a show of mess, and I guess that's why we watch it. So then that was that scene. So Porsha, leaves, upset, crying about what she heard Shamea was saying or how Shamea really felt. So the next scene is Drew making breakfast for her son, and then in her confessional where she's talking to the producers, she says that the kids don't know about the divorce. They want the kids to stay out of the divorce. They don't want them to know. They want to shield and hide it from them, and to protect the children, trying to keep everything regarding the divorce wrapped up. She says she doesn't want to start crying in her confessional, and that's because she looks like a drag queen. I don't like that makeup. Whoever did that glam needs a whooping. I did not like that. A hot mess to me. So then she calls her doctor, Dr. Ken. Dr. Ken is her therapist, her doctor, and she tells him what's going on with the girls, everything that's going on with Porsha, Dennis, and all the drama. And basically he's just telling her, oh, okay, no, I'm sorry, I missed this scene. So then that was that scene. So she's, telling him about, basically she's telling him about the girls. So when she has that session with Dr. Ken, it's via Zoom. So she's not in the office. She's not at the doctor's office. He's not at her house. It's on a computer. So it's probably on Zoom. And then they go and they show a scene where Angela is telling Drew that Shamea and Porsha met up with Ralph, and that Porsha told him that Drew was trying to sleep with Dennis. So basically, Angela is being a bone collector. Angela is the new bone collector of the show, guys. Angela is Sheree. Angela is Sheree. She's the bone collector. So she the one doing all this running back and forth and back. She told Kelly, then she told Porsha, and then now she's talking to Drew and telling Drew that Porsha and Shamea met up with Ralph. I mean, she's busy. Between trying to sell houses and whatever else she got going on, she's a bone collector. So Angela, the bone collector, collecting bones, and going back and forth and telling everybody she said, he said. And then it's almost like she's trying to be a puppet master. I don't know, like manipulating the scenes, playing the scenes, moving the scenes around. She's moving the. You know what though? She's moving the scene. She's moving the scene. She's moving the story along. She's the puppet master and the bone carrier. So then they pan back to Dr. Ken, and he's telling Drew that she's no longer a victim, that she needs to live in reality. Basically, he's telling her that he's proud of her progress and that she's doing good, and she needs to just, focus on her and herself. So that was that scene. And I agree with him. I agree with everything he said, honey. So next scene is the Pampered by Porsha event. So this event is some kind of warehouse looking place. But it's like, I looked it up. It's like a fancy place here in Atlanta that people use for photo shoots, influencers and stuff like that. So it's like a studio. You know how you can go to the movie studio and create movies and they have these scenes already set or whatever. It's like that. So Pampered by Porsha event. Everybody comes to the event with their robes on or lingerie, and then they get to another lingerie that's for them to get ready for the photo shoot. I can't even talk. So this is Porsha trying to expand her brand. She's trying to rebrand her name and her image because, she said before she identified solely as a wife. And now she wants to change her image. She wants to be, the next Martha Stewart, okay? The next Rihanna, or mogul. So, Pampered by Porsha. So then they show Kelly and Britt on their way in the car together. They're always in the car together. Like, if you go back to episode 1 up to now, like whenever there's an event, Kelly and Britt are always in a car together on their way to the event all the time together. And then Angela Oakley arrives by herself. That's usually what happens with her. Britt shares with Kelly that Michael is meeting with her sister, and they're talking and they're going to make up and squash their beef, which is a beautiful thing. And I hope that happens so we don't have to hear Britt crying about her sisters anymore. And then Drew shows up with her, and then in her confessional, she's talking shit about Porsha. Okay, she's talking shit about Porsha. Portia's talking shit about her. This beef is probably gonna go and last as long as the season and well into the reunion. The reunion is gonna be good because Drew and Porsha are going to go at it. It's going to be good. And then Porsha in her confessional says she doesn't want to argue or talk about Drew anymore. I hope so. And then Kelly and Britt was getting their drink when they arrived. And then they start flirting with the young man at the door. I thought that was cute. But he looked too young for them, honey. But, And then they show them getting pictures, taking some pictures, group pictures, individual pictures that they can have. Porsha said that they can have to take home to their husbands or whatever. And, it was cute. Sexy pictures and stuff. And then Drew in her confessional says that she is not an ambassador for Pampered by Porsha. So basically what the scene was, everybody was in lingerie, and then Porsha had this nice place and they were just getting pampered. They were drinks, food, massage, meditation. It was a cute little event. And so Drew was saying, if we're going to be taking pictures with the sheets and stuff like that, as if we're advertising or sponsoring or co-signing or being influencers for these sheets, we need to get paid, honey. Because she said her GoFundMe contract was, destroyed, or it was over, it was terminated. It was fired, honey. So she's like, okay, so if you're going to have me take pictures with these damn sheets, you're going to have to pay me. That's what that's what Drew was saying. And so in her confessional, of course, she's talking shit. So, and throwing shade, okay? But at the end of the day, you guys, I agree with Drew. Like, if you're going to have, gosh, I hate when I say that. I do not want to keep having to agree with Drew, but I'm having to do a lot of that because I'm not a hater. So, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I have my favorites, which is Porsha and Shamea, and who else? That's about it, because Kelly and Angela, they're growing on me, but they're not there yet. And Drew I really didn't care for her, but I'm having to agree with Drew a lot. And disagree with Porsha a lot. Because Porsha is showing her ass this season. And, and when you're right, you're right. And when you're wrong, you're wrong. It doesn't matter if you're my favorite or not. I'm going to keep it real. And I'm going to give an honest review, honest recap. So, I'm not going to be like some of these content creators out here, honey, that I listen to. And I'll be like, dang, can you just be objective? But hey, let's move along. So then Porsha in her confessional says she doesn't have the bandwidth to confront Shamea about what Angela had told her. She said, she's sad or upset that her friend has been talking about her behind her back. Well, shit, Porsha. Shamea is upset and hurt. Well, she will be, I guess, whatever, when she finds out. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, it's the same thing, honey. It's the same thing. So then Porsha and Shamea, they take a picture together. And but Porsha's not saying anything. She's not confronting Shamea, and she shouldn't, because it's supposed to be a peaceful event. So they take a picture together. And then they show Kelly approaching Shamea. Kelly tells Shamea, let's sit down, or she was already sit down. She sits next to her, and she goes over to talk to Shamea. Kelly tells Shamea what Drew has said, how Porsha was crying, and so basically, what the conversation that Kelly, Angela, and Drew had at Angela's house. So Kelly tells her that Angela was saying that Porsha was crying about what Angela had told her, how Shamea felt, and that Drew was saying that Shamea was a lapdog to Porsha, and Angela and Drew was pretty much saying that Shamea is up Porsha's ass, and their friendship is lopsided. So basically Kelly went back and told her everything that Angela had told her. Okay, so she was being a bone collector and messy too. So Shamea gets upset that Porsha didn't tell her about the conversation with Angela. This part right here took me a minute to understand what the hell was going on. Because I was like, girl, what? So basically, Shamea was upset because when Angela came and told her how Shamea felt and what Shamea had said at that rental property when she was playing tennis, when she ran off crying, what Shamea was saying is, then why didn't Porsha tell me about that encounter? She didn't say nothing about it to me. So she was upset about that. In my own personal opinion, though, the reason why Porsha didn't tell Shamea is probably because she hasn't probably had time between that scene and this scene. I don't know, if days went by or months went by or weeks went by, but it just seems to me that Porsha probably didn't have enough time to meet up with Shamea to tell her and to talk to her about that conversation. And then maybe she had planned on talking to Shamea about it later on. And I don't think Porsha was being shady. I don't think it was like, oh, I'm never going to talk to her about it. She probably just didn't get around to it. That's my opinion. And Shamea took it the wrong way. And then the way Kelly said it was wrong anyway, because it was so confusing and messy the way Kelly said it, being a bone carrier, that even me, it took me a minute to figure out what the hell she was saying. Not necessarily what she was saying, but to understand the way she was trying to break it down, because it felt like Kelly's version was different from Angela's version. So I was trying to make sense of it all. So then they show, so everybody's like laying on these beds, mattresses. They're not real bed. It looked like a twin or a full-size mattress that they had, and everybody had their own individual ones, and they were laying on it, kind of like meditation, to relax, get a massage. And then they showed Lauren, Porsha's sister, and some other lady doing some kind of, I don't know, banging on pots and pans. I want to say pots and pans, but they weren't pots and pans. They were like those things that you use to plant flowers in, planters, or that you put your flowers in, those big things. Gosh, I forgot what they're called. I don't know why people use those, and they kind of like bring them and go in a circle. I don't know if it's voodoo or Hindu or some kind of witchcraft. I don't know what the hell that is. Meditation. They go around in circles and they bang on it. I've seen them on the Love and Marriage Huntsville too. Stormy did that when Mel came over to her house. So I don't know. I don't know what it's called, child. But that's what they were doing, trying to get people to relax. So anyway, I guess none of them could relax because Kelly ran across, because she was on one end. So she ran across to Shamea with her butt hanging out. I'm like, girl, Kelly and Britt's butts is always out. Both of their butts looking like BBLs or butt shots or whatever the hell that they did to their booties. But it's like no one cares and no one wants to see it. So Kelly running across to Shamea with her butt hanging out. Shamea says she doesn't feel comfortable and there's no peace. And she's sitting up. She didn't lay down. Shamea was, sitting up, saying that there was no peace because of the situation between her and Porsha and what Kelly has shared with her. So basically, Kelly says basically everything you told Angela went back and told Porsha. And then Shamea's like, okay, but no, Porsha hasn't came to me to talk to me about it. That's still upsetting her, and it's not giving her peace. So she's sitting up, and then Porsha sits up and she tells them to shush. Porsha's like, shh, because everybody's supposed to be quiet and they're supposed to be not sleeping, but it's supposed to be zen, and they're supposed to meditate. So when Shamea and Kelly's talking, Porsha's telling them to shush. So then Lauren says, okay, you guys, so now we're going to talk about, we're going to share if there's any issues, if any problems, if there's anything you need to say to somebody. So then Angela's like, yeah, I'll go first. I'll speak first. So Angela speaks to Porsha. She says, well, Angela says, Porsha, can I speak to you? And Porsha's like, yes. So Angela tells Porsha that she appreciates her apology and she accepts her apology, because I guess she apologized for saying what she said about Charles. Oh, Lord have mercy. Charles. So then Kelly says she wants to speak next, so she speaks next. She says that she feels that Porsha doesn't allow Shamea to be her best self. Kelly says that she feels that Porsha and Shamea's relationship is not like how it used to be, that their relationship is damaged. It needs to be healed, and it needs to be worked on. Conversations need to be had. Basically, like Carlos King always says, let's have a real conversation. Let's have a real conversation. So they need to have a real conversation. And Kelly says that Shamea needs to talk. Excuse me. Shamea needs to talk, and Shamea is not able to express herself and be who she, and be her real self and express her real feelings and be able to shine because of Porsha. And then Shamea said that the conversation between Porsha and Angela was not brought back to her, and she has not had the conversation with Porsha. And Shamea is mad that Porsha did not tell her what Angela had said about her. And so, and then Portia's like, she just feels that Shamea is the good friend and Porsha is the bad friend. And Angela said that she did not come to her wedding and that she didn't want her to be in the group. So Portia's talking now. So Portia's like, okay, she did not have that conversation with Shamea, but now she's forced to have that conversation because Kelly and Angela is is pretty much making Porsha face Shamea and have this conversation. So Porsha is saying that Angela had told her that Shamea was mad because she didn't come to the wedding in Kenya and that she didn't want her on the show. So then Porsha explains why she didn't come to the wedding in Kenya. Porsha said that something about a seating, which I don't even know what that meant. She said something about a seating on a plane. Well, first Porsha said that her and Shamea weren't even talking during that time. She said they weren't talking. And then also something about the seating on the plane. So the plane flying from Atlanta to Kenya, something about the seating. I don't know if Porsha had a BBL or what did you have done? Like, did you get something done? She must have had something done. I don't know. But she said she couldn't sit because of the seating. That's why she didn't go. And so then Shamea was saying, okay, but you could have let me know that and we could have taken care of the plane ticket issue. And then Porsha says that she never said that she didn't want her on the show. And then, so then Angela says that, again, that Shamea feels that she's afraid to talk and confront Porsha. Angela is saying that she feels that Shamea is afraid and doesn't want to confront Porsha and doesn't want to talk to Porsha about issues that's bothering her. And I feel like Porsha does not want to hear or care how Shamea feels. I feel like Porsha does dismiss Shamea. She dismisses her. She doesn't regard her in high regard. I do feel like Porsha is not a good friend to Shamea. And Shamea is a good friend to her. Shamea takes up for Porsha all the time. Like if somebody talks shit, just like she said now, if somebody talks shit about Porsha, or they say something, do I not correct them? And yes, she does. You do correct them, Shamea. You do. And Porsha, and I'm not saying that Porsha lets people talk about Shamea because Angela was not talking bad about Shamea. What Angela was doing was telling Porsha how Shamea feels. But Shamea took it as though Angela was talking about her in a bad way. But what she was doing was just telling Porsha, hey, this is how Porsha feels. This is how Shamea feels. She feels this way. But she's afraid to talk to you about it. you know. And so, but it wasn't so much like they were talking bad about her. But I do feel that it is a one-sided relationship. I do feel that Porsha dismisses Shamea. She rolls her eyes on her when she talks. She doesn't hold her in high regard. I don't know what that's about, but I don't like it. But it's obvious because it comes through my TV screen. I can see it through my TV screen. So in this scene, basically, like, they're just going back and forth. You know, they're going back and forth. Portia's trying to explain why she didn't come to Kenya, trying to explain that she never said she didn't want her on the show. And then Shamea is pretty much saying, like, she really, you know, she can speak for herself. She don't need people to speak for her. And then Cynthia says, you know, she hates to see that friendships are being broken. And, you know, and Porsha and Shamea have been friends since they were young, which they have. They've been friends since they were children. And so for people to try to break up their friendship, that's messed up, which it is. But I don't feel that that's what they were trying to do. I'll be honest. I don't feel like Kelly and Angela was trying to break up their friendship. What they're trying to do is pull feelings out of Shamea and try to have Shamea confront and talk to Porsha one-on-one and tell Porsha how she feels. Now, on Angela, I do feel like a couple of scenes she was being a little bit vindictive towards Porsha because she was mad at Porsha for Porsha saying that she would sleep with her husband. But from Kelly's side, I don't think Kelly never was being vindictive or being messy, you know, but she was just pushing the story along. You know, she made the scenes happen, pushed the story along up, and that helped. But I hope Porsha and Shamea can work on their relationship because they have been friends for so long. But it is very obvious that Porsha is the big dog and Shamea kind of feels like she's the little dog. But Shamea, she's not the little dog. They both can be on the same level and they can both be boss bitches. But Porsha needs to stop being so dismissive. Very dismissive of Shamea. Rude and disrespectful towards her sometimes, and I don't like that. Nobody likes that. So then that scene ends with, you know, Shamea basically saying, you know, that she's always shown Porsha some grace. And then Portia's like, well, thank you for your grace. And then the way she said it and rolled her eyes and turned her face and didn't even look at her and didn't even go over there to give her a hug either. You know, Shamea was still upset, kind of like crying, you know. And so that's how that scene ended. But I feel like Porsha could have went over there, gave Shamea a hug, and said, you know, it's okay, sis. It was a misunderstanding. I love you. We're still best friends. You're still my best friend. I love you. It was a misunderstanding. I was going to talk to you eventually. I was just going to, you know, I just haven't had a chance to get around to it, you know, and these heifers beat me to it. They wanted to be messy. You have one being a bone collector, the other one being messy, you know. But hey, we're here. We're going to face this conversation. And, you know, we're going to thug it out. You, my bestie, and hug it out. And that would have been the end of that. But it wasn't. Porsha was rolling her eyes and being dismissive of Shamea's feelings. And then Shamea was still upset. So that was it. And then the credits started running, and that was the end of that scene. And that was the end of that episode. So that's episode 10. Episode 10 was hard to watch because of the foolishness. The scene with Porsha, Shamea, and Ralph. And then the scene at the Pamper by Porsha with Shamea and Porsha. Those two were hard scenes. But I think this episode is called Meditation and Meditation. So episode 10 recap, review. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, comment, and like. This is the Tea Factory podcast. We appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.